Warning, this podcast contains spoilers for the video game The Last of Us, parts 1 and 2, but mostly 1. A minor spoiler for The Road by Cormac McCarthy, which came out in 2006. Get to your local library and read that. Plus a potential spoiler for Ant-Man and The Wasp Quantumania that was revealed in the latest trailer. Be careful. Hello, my name is Jason Concepcion.
And I'm Rosie Knight.
And welcome to X-Ray Vision, the Crooked Media podcast where we dive deep into your favorite shows, movies, comics, and pop culture.
In this episode, we got previously on the Ant-Man and The Wasp Quantumania trailer.
And in the Airlock, we're going to be revisiting The Last of Us video game, the masterpiece video game from Naughty Dog, recently remastered on the Sony PlayStation platform. So get that if you're interested in getting involved in The Last of Us stuff.
And as always, if you want to jump around, check the show notes for timestamps so you don't get spoiled, or you want to hear our theories again and again, you can just jump back to them.
All right, let's get into it. First up, a little bit of news. This trailer dropped Monday evening after we had recorded our first episode of the week. It is the Ant-Man Quantumania trailer. The movie comes out February 17th, directed by Peyton Reed, written by Jeff Loveness. Paul Rudd is Scott Lang, Evangeline Lilly is the Wasp, Jonathan Majors, of course, spotlighted as Kang the Conqueror. New addition Catherine Newton as the new Cassie Lang. And William Jackson Harper as potentially Quasar. We're getting this from IMDb.
Yes.
Listen, I'm a mark. I don't know what to tell you. I thought this trailer looked great, and I'm very excited.
It looks so good. I mean, look, one, you got Kang, and they fully committed. They didn't give him some weird military backstory. We didn't have to see some
Kang
strange
we
uniform.
all know and
He's
love.
wearing purple. He's wearing green. He's wearing boots. He's wearing a cape. Is he wearing a mini skirt? I hope to see it. So currently he's in shadow. But it looks like a classic costume. And then not only that, but it's this super weird cosmic tale. And yeah, that PR, the email they sent out was really interesting because it confirmed that William Jackson Harper's playing this character called Quaz, which a lot of people are saying is Quasar, and I think IMDb says that too. Also, we got David Dashmalian, who is gonna come back, but not as Kurt. He's playing a character called Veb. I think we see Veb and Quaz, and then this other character that they announced called Gentora. I think we see them in the first trailer. They're three people that kind of stand there. Veb, I think, has this glowing head. That's my guess. So you're getting really weird stuff. You're getting great returning cast members. And that's before we even get to MODOK, who... you know, the mental organism designed only for killing. He's here. And it looked like, I thought for a minute, I was like, is that Paul Scheer? But it wasn't. It was Corey Stoll. It was Corey Stoll's giant head.
I love that wrinkle. Little surprised they left the maskless frame in the trailer as a reveal, but I love the fact that Corey Stoll, sucked in to the quantum realm, is still there, still around, still doing evil Corey Stoll shit.
That's definitely what it is. I think a lot of people were wondering when the rumor started going, oh, it's Corey Stoll, he's going to be playing MODOK. You know, his alter ego in the comics is George Tarleton. People were like, oh, they must be recasting him. He's a great actor. It's kind of like Gemma Chan going from Captain Marvel to Eternals and being a new character. But no, I think you are correct. I wrote a piece at IGN yesterday about it. I think that Yellow Jacket, as we saw at the end of Ant-Man, gets sucked in and kind of mangled to this subatomic size. And I think that's likely why his head is this giant size. I think it might be part of one of the only parts of his body that's left. And we see him sitting in the famous MODOK chair. So and then we get that shot that we'd kind of had teased from some toy leaks, of course, the ultimate spoiler location of MODOK in some kind of battle armor, which is very interesting because that doesn't really exist in the comics. But yeah, this movie is going to be absolutely wild.
Here is what I think is pretty easily gleaned from the trailer. Seems like, so Scott obviously disappeared in the snap, returned in the blip 5 years later, saved the world as part of the battle against Thanos, but lost 5 years raising Cassie, who we see being released from prison and has gone maybe on a kind of darker, more criminal-minded path. I wonder where she gets that from, Scott. Okay? And so Scott probably thinking, God, I wish I had that time back. I could have raised Cassie right. I could have done a better job by her. Then comes this message from the quantum realm. They get sucked in there. And my guess is Kang just wants out. Kang has been trapped in there for this version of Kang, the Conqueror, has been trapped in the quantum realm and can't get out and needs Scott's help getting out. And in return for him getting out, he will, I guess, return Scott to a timeline where the snap didn't happen. Yeah.
It's unclear. What is very clear is that, Janet Van Dien, played by the icon Michelle Pfeiffer, has a history with Kang. I like to imagine that they had a romantic quantum entanglement while she was there. But we see her, she's talking about how she kept this secret, and we see her hiding something that looks a lot like the rings that we saw Phastos making in Eternals and the 10 rings from Shang-Chi. So it's going to be some kind of artifact. It could be connected to the 10 rings. It could be a different version of them that it seems like Janet hid in the quantum realm while she was there. And we're going to see that classic Ant-Man heist story coming in again, which is always the way. Every Ant-Man movie, you got to do a heist. And I think it's very fun to imagine where that would go. I'm interested to see how they sell the emotional journey of Scott being willing to do something terrible to get this time back, because I don't know if it aligns with how I see him. But maybe that darker road that Cassie went down, maybe that's the thing that he wants to change, and that would be a believable arc. But yeah, I mean, this thing looks bonkers, and one of the weirdest things about it is they're pulling all these characters, Gentora, Krylar. Krylar had like one appearance, and they're pulling these characters from really weird Incredible Hulk storylines. So I'm interested to see if that's something that's going to come up.
That's what I was going to say. This really is the Incredible Hulk enters the microverse.
Exactly.
Story. Basically, it's the Hulk gets sucked into the microverse where he falls deeply in love,
as always,
and gets as he always does when he goes to another realm, and gets ensnared in this microverse war that he then has to fight in, yada yada yada. But it feels like that's kind of what they're doing here.
There's a direct connection to that, because Krylar, his first appearance was during that microverse event in Hulk 156. And Gentora, who we know is going to be played by Katie O'Brien thanks to the PR blast that came with this trailer, that's Jarella's niece. Jarella is the person the Hulk fell in love with. So it's very interesting deeply in love. Yeah, like it's very interesting to see them pulling from this microverse stuff, which is also like this very interesting controversial stuff, because later on the microverse would be connected to the Micronauts, which Marvel no longer has the rights to. So it becomes this very kind of fun, weird, deep cut history moment. But I'm interested to see, there is actually an issue during that microverse arc in Hulk 154 where Hulk is microverse size and he crosses over with Ant-Man, and it has like a really cool cover where like he's like fighting a rat and Ant-Man's like flying over the top of him. So look, Hulk, we saw, Mark Ruffalo loves this character. There's so many cool things they could do with it. I don't necessarily know if we're going to get a Hulk cameo, but I do feel like he's one of the characters that they're really interested in placing into these stories, like they did with She-Hulk, like his role in Infinity War especially. So yeah, I'll be intrigued to see. But I love that they're taking from these weird kind of eras. I wonder if that's Peyton Reed and Jeff Loveness too, because they're around our age. And I feel like the microverse stuff, if you're just a little bit older than us or you're around our age and you were digging in the back issues, that is probably something that's like close to your heart. That's like a weird arc. So I'd be really interested to know if this was more of like a personal look back, kind of like how Jessica Gao was bringing a lot of the stuff she loved from She-Hulk to that story. Yeah, looks absolutely bonkers.
Yeah, if anybody has a Marvel Unlimited plan or access to old comics, check out that Hulk in the Microverse run. First of all, that is, it was a very influential storyline. That romance is very influential. Hulk fans still talk about it. And and you'll see also the kind of template that, was later followed in some of the great, Hulk crossovers like Planet Hulk. I think Planet Hulk is like is built on the bones of the Hulk in the microverse.
Yeah,
story.
the Hulk as a fish out of water, not being able to be that huge, looming kind of singular beast that he's always been, that's been able to help him. That definitely very much travels through those other Hulk events. So yeah, it's really fun. It starts in Avengers 88. I've just been rereading it all today after watching the trailer. So it begins in 88, and then it's basically like random issues from Hulk 140 to Hulk 203. So great thing to check out, like Jason said, if you have a unlimited account, or if you're just going through and doing some back issue digging, because trust me, those are some weird issues. I'm sure you can just still find them around and about.
Next up, let's talk about The Last of Us. Okay, we're stepping out of the airlock and into the year 2013 to discuss the video game phenomenon that is The Last of Us.
Woo!
The Last of Us released on PS3 in June of 2013.
Ooh, PS3.
Developed by Naughty Dog. This is their kind of like, they had already made a name for themselves in the kind of like cinematic third-person action space with the Uncharted series, which is absolutely wonderful story about an Indiana Jones knockoff who kills 800 guys in order to heist, various like gold objects from around the world. And then they come with The Last of Us, which just seemed to knit together, a bunch of strands of things that were kind of like in the air at the time. This is like post the banking collapse, still like, post 9/11 era, this kind of post the road, this kind of dystopian story about a middle-aged guy and a teenage girl who he has to escort across the post-apocalyptic wasteland, and the kind of the troubles they get in and the relationship they have. It was written by and developed by Neil Druckmann, who kind of led the development of the game, that directed it, and then kind of designed the writing direction. And I remember I was an Xbox person. And so this game was one of the reasons that I saved up money in order to get a PlayStation, because I was watching, gameplay of it, and particularly the multiplayer gameplay, which I was very into at the time. I was like a big Call of Duty Black Ops person, and it just looked absolutely mesmerizing. It was grittier and like more, in air quotes, realistic than anything I'd seen before then. And then, playing it for the first time, you kind of never, it's an indelible experience. It's one of those games where, kind of like Resident Evil, but very different, where your character, whoever you're controlling, whether it's Joel or Ellie, feels so vulnerable, and that just affects the way that you play the game. It creates an enormous amount of tension. It's just a game I really love, and I think it's one of the best stories told in a video game of all time. What was your experience playing this game?
I totally agree. Like, this game and God of War, those were like two big game changers for me. I'd always been predominantly into fighting games and platformers, and I really remember both of these games feeling like, oh, this is if a platform game was 3D and had puzzles like Tomb Raider, but was also a fighting game, and you have to learn different combos and different ways to disarm people, and you can stealthily creep up on people. And it was kind of, I think about The Last of Us a lot, because it is this really interesting cyclical thing. And as we cover this in the show, I'm going to be just talking about this all the time because it kind of blows my mind. So Last of Us is developed in 2009, which is 6 years after the Walking Dead comic comes out. And the influence of The Walking Dead on the kind of conception of this game and the tone of this game, when you think of the comics, it can't really be erased, because it's such a unbelievable kind of change in the way we approach zombie storytelling. But the thing that blows my mind is the game was in development a year before the Walking Dead TV show started, which to me is just so wild, because this establishes so much of the tone and the vibe and the emotions that then would go on to become a big part of The Walking Dead. So I kind of see The Last of Us and The Walking Dead as this really interesting, cyclical, constantly inspiring each other and taking inspiration from each other.
Yeah, I see it very I see a lot of The Road in it too. The Road, I think,
Oh, yeah.
I want to say was published in 2006.
Oh yeah, Cormac McCarthy. I mean, that book.
Yeah, you know, first of all, it's in that story, you're talking about the relationship between a father and son, but very similarly, it's like the father is the protector of this teenage boy, and the kid is so innocent in a way. We'll talk about the way Ellie is depicted in this story. It's very much similar. So innocent and kid-like in a way that feels dangerous in that world. Yeah. And I think the other thing that really hit, above and beyond the fact that you're talking about this, parent-child kind of construction is, in The Road, there's a moment where they get cornered by, one of the cannibals that's roaming the landscape.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert, sorry. And the dad shoots the guy with his only bullet. He had one bullet in a revolver and then wood carved to look like bullets and painted black that he put in the barrel so it would look like he had a full barrel. And that kind of like lack of resources, we've only got one of these, I've only got one lighter and barely is absolutely integral to the experience of playing The Last of Us, in which you're just scrounging around for like pieces of things to make knives, to make band-aids out of, to make health potions out of.
To upgrade your gun, all different things.
One thing also I wanted to mention is that while, Druckmann is led the development of the game, there's like hundreds of artisans and craftspeople that were worked on this game below the line. You can look up the Last of Us credits, and there's pages and pages of them too. And they were, while Druckmann's going to be the headline name, a lot of people worked on this game, and they created an absolute masterpiece. There's a lot of great things to read if you want to read more about this game that were written in the time that it came out. I think of Tom Bissell's Truish Grit on Grantland, which is a place that I used to write for. Here's a quote from that. I played through a chunk of The Last of Us in the company of a talented professional level designer. It was instructive. The game opens in a little girl's room. My level designer friend walked around the space, impressed first, foremost by the convincingness of his character's sleepyhead animation set. Then he began to point out art assets that seemed to him particularly well made. That, he said at one point, is an amazing fucking beanbag. It's just an incredibly immersive game. The New Yorker wrote a really cool piece about whether The Last of Us can become really the first high quality video game adaptation in history in either film or the television space. I guess, I don't know how people feel about, fucking Assassin's Creed or some of these other adaptations that are out there.
It's the cultural agreement that we have made is that video game adaptations rarely live up to the video game.
And I'm excited to cover the television show, Rosie, and to see how tightly or loosely it hews to the story and arc of the original game. I think you'll find some, for those of you who end up reading the New York article, there's some cool tidbits in there about how Craig Mazin, showrunner, kind of designed the show's episodes as kind of video game levels, where it's like you go to a place, you meet some characters, and then you go to another place in another episode and you kind of leave those characters and places behind. Fascinated to watch the show. I can't wait.
Yeah, I mean, we're in a really interesting place because this show currently has 97% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Damn.
And that is reviews from everywhere from IGN, which gave it an almost perfect score, to like The Hollywood Reporter, all these different kinds of people who are enjoying this adaptation. I saw lots of kind of things that could have sounded hyperbolic, the idea that this is going to be the first smash hit of the year for HBO. But from people's responses, it really sounds like they've managed to capture something about the game that was so special while still making it accessible to people who haven't played it. So we could be getting, this could be our first widely recognized prestige video game adaptation made in America. So I'm very excited, and I can't wait to talk to you about it more.
Yeah, we'll be continuing our coverage of The Last of Us, both the game and the show, here on X-Ray Vision.